Okay. All right. My name's Graham from Tri Coaching Partnership. I'm going to welcome Lynne Barrie to this interview. Hi, Lynne. Lynne, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your life journey?
Hi, Graham. Thanks for inviting me today. My life journey, gosh. Okay. Well, when I was a child, I was in a family where they had small businesses and they had shops and also a post office, actually. So I was brought up on those premises and we lived above them. And what was interesting was that I think even at that stage, I was quite sort of aware of the fact that my dad used to get quite stressed out about this and that my mum would help, and they were very much a team. So they've supported me all the way along with everything that I ever have done. They're no longer here, sadly, but when I got a bit older, they helped me with my education. They helped me as I went through school. I went on to a college to learn to be a teacher because I'd learned that I actually really enjoyed communicating and teaching people things and helping them. And so I went to college. I knew that the main subject that I was best at and loved was practical, and it was cookery. And so I went to learn to be a cookery teacher.
Okay.
And I call it cookery. It was domestic science. It moved to home economics. It became food technology. It changed massively while I was in it, Graham. So I went and I trained. I got a job afterwards. At that point, I couldn't drive, actually. And it suddenly hit me that I was relying on people to get me backwards and forwards to work. So I learned to drive. And I really enjoyed driving as well, actually. It was something I felt that I could be good at, and I wanted to do it properly and well. Then I became a teacher. I became a second in the department in a huge comprehensive school. And then I became head of department in a school. And then I began to realise that the subject changing a little bit. It was being taken off the curriculum, which I didn't really agree with. It was disappearing. And I felt that I wanted to, I don't know, I felt I just wanted to start a family, back off a little bit and do it more part-time, which is exactly what I did. And while I had the children and they were young, I actually decided and made this momentous decision one day as I was walking along that I was not going back to teaching anymore, getting up with them at 6 o'clock in the morning to take them to a childminder, when I thought, well, Lynne, you could be doing this yourself. Spend the time with them. I did. But being me, I trained to be an instructor while I was at home with them and they were little. And that's when I actually trained to be a driving instructor.
Okay.
The rest, you know.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. One of the things in there that I remember domestic science. Yeah, but the fact that that they would take it, I mean, I'm not aware, but they took it off the curriculum. It's another life skill that goes, isn't it? You know, because we all have to cook. I mean, you know, you go and live on your own, and all of a sudden you think, oh, or is it ready meals for life? You know. So yeah, no, that's interesting. In fact, I'm interested in the fact that you had the teacher background, and that transfer from the teacher background into being a driving instructor.
Definitely.
So when did you start your career as an ADI, and what attracted you to this industry? Because you could have transferred your skills into a lot of different areas.
Yeah, I could have done. I knew I liked teaching, but as I mentioned before, I just had this thing about driving. I loved cars and I really enjoyed driving once I learned how to do it. I didn't think I was very good at it particularly, but I liked doing it. And there was just one day when I was walking along the road and about 2 or 3 driving instructors passed me, and they were all male. And I was watching sort of what they were doing, and I thought, do you know what? That's actually teaching. And I do love driving. I wonder what it takes to be a driving instructor. So I started to look into it, went through the, I couldn't possibly do this. And then in my head, something said, if those 3 people on that road can do this, Lynne, there's no reason why you couldn't do it. Yeah. And so I set about it and obviously qualified to do it. And I don't regret that. I don't regret leaving the teaching. It was great when I was in it, but it changed so much afterwards. I actually don't regret it. And in fact, about, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, I was actually invited back to teach again in a school because they are short of teachers with specialist skills to teach home economics, food technology, whatever you want to call it.
All right. So, look, tell me about how long ago did you become a driving instructor, and tell me about that progression. And let's just talk about being a driving instructor, because I'll come to the ADINJC later.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Well, can we just say over 20 years? That would be kind. I really don't want to start counting.
I don't believe that.
So for over 20 years now, I've been a driving instructor. And when I first did it, actually, I don't think I was very good at it. I didn't really, what I didn't like was the way that I was just, well, the way I was trained, which was good, but the way I was trained, I was just telling everybody what to do all the time. So, you know, check your mirrors, put the signal on, this sort of thing. And it didn't feel right to me, because I taught a practical subject before and it was never done like that. So I had these conflicts going on with what I was doing and what I thought I ought to be doing. Didn't do very well in my first check test. I passed it, but I didn't pass it in any way how I wanted to pass it. And I almost at that point gave up. I'll be honest, I did. I walked away from that test centre with sort of tears in my eyes, because I thought, I just don't want to do this. What am I doing? And actually, it was an examiner who followed me down the road and said, Lynn, wait a minute, you know, what are you doing? And I said, oh, I'm just a bit fed up with this today. And he said, look, you won't get what you want immediately, especially in this business, you know, and this industry. But we've seen what you bring in here. Please don't give up. You know, and at that time I was one of the few women around the place as well, actually. Unfortunately, that's grown a lot, but I was, when I came into it, there weren't many of us. And he sort of said to me, please don't give up now. And I said, well, I could actually take my headboard and put it in a skip at the moment. And those were my words. And he said to me, Lynn, please don't do that. Just go away and think about it. I thought about it. I'm still here, aren't I? So obviously I didn't throw it all up in the air. But there have been times when I could have done that. But the rest of it, I mean, I love it. I love helping the people, and not just the learners when they've passed the test, you know, the little notes that I get written to me that says, you've just helped my mummy, she can take us to the seaside now, and that sort of thing. And it's just so lovely to be able to help people like that as your job. But also, of course, the amount of instructors now that I've helped as well, and people to actually get this as a job, not just somebody passing their L test, but to help people develop a new career. So there's a huge satisfaction with it.
Yeah, there was something that you said there that interests me, and I don't know the answer to this question, but when you did your first check test, did you do what you were trained to do in your head, or did you do what you normally do? Did you get held back by your training?
I think I was in a complete mess in my head as to what I should have been doing, and so many things were going round. It wasn't what I call natural. So I guess I was doing what I thought I ought to do, rather than the natural, just let my teaching style come out, which would probably have been a lot better. But I think I made a big mistake, actually, Graham, in not learning more about what that test was about before I went for it. I could have done a lot more. It came through quite quickly, and I should have done more with it. That was me being unprepared for it, really.
Yeah, no. The reason I ask, because it just echoes and resonates with mine. I mean, I scraped a 4 on my first check test back then, and I did what I was trained to do rather than what I knew I should have done, and I was held back by that. And the next time, the same as you, I was going to walk away, and I did my next check test, and I thought, right, I'm doing what I do. If it ain't going to work, I'm off. And that changed my career.
Yes.
Trusting yourself, you know, that belief, isn't it?
It is having belief, but it's also that what you were doing would be good, because if it wasn't, that still wouldn't have worked, would it? So, you know, what you're doing does have to be good. So you do need help to find that. And you need to be courageous enough to let somebody watch you actually teach. And then say, well, this is great, this is good, what have you thought about this, and have those sort of conversations with you. That's what really moves you on. And I'll be honest, Graham, like probably yourself, in this industry, what's helped me is all the people I've met, because I've learned so much from every single person that I've helped and that I've trained. I've learned from them. They might not realize that, but I have. And it's putting all that together which makes the whole you know, the whole of where I am now, I suppose.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree, Lynne, because it's exactly the same for me. I mean, I nick everything I know off of everybody else. I mean, you don't invent it yourself. You take a bit of and unless you get involved with other people, your learning stops. You know, you're isolated and you get boxed in, which actually it brings me to my next question, actually, because I know when we sort of first met each other. So I want to know, tell me about your involvement in the growth of coaching.
I think I was lucky enough. I'd attended an ADINJC conference at the time. I was brave. I went on my own. I didn't take a friend along. I just went, and it did feel a bit lonely to begin with until I started to talk to people. So sometimes you do have to be a bit courageous in this industry. Yeah. It can feel lonely. And there I saw John Whitmore, Sir John Whitmore, talking. And that just started it all off for me, and I thought, who is this person? I want to hear him again. So when I knew that they were running something that he was on, I went to it, and then eventually I actually ended up being lucky enough to go on the trials that started for some ADIs that wanted to do, you know, coaching and were thought of well in the industry, and I was grateful to be on one of those. And that's what started me off with the coaching, and it all slotted in then, because like I said to you, I didn't feel how I was doing it was correct, but when I started the coaching, it started to really fall into place. Yeah
no, I mean, I absolutely agree. I mean, you know, we were there together on the University of East London, and you know, I still appreciate the help you gave me with the academic writing side, because I'm crap at it. Yeah, so and I still appreciate that. I've always been more of a practitioner than someone who could, even though I understand the theory, putting it on the paper was an immense task for me. And the reason I mention that, because there's lots of driving instructors just like that who get scared of going on a course because the academia, and it's not really, just the words frighten them away. And my view is always try to simplify things. So with that, I mean, that was what, I don't know, 10 or so plus years ago.
Oh, at least.
Yeah, it was probably closer to 12 years ago. So what else have you done since then? Because, you know, you're chair of the ADINJC. Tell me about, you know, how did that all come about?
Well, through starting to go to some of those conferences and things, starting to meet people. You know, I met the likes of Neil Peake there, who started just to talk to me, and he wasn't involved in that at the time either. But then we got talking. The NJC at that time asked me if I would be the secretary. Now, I had never been a secretary of anything in my life, Graham, and when they asked me that, I was terrified. I thought, I can't be a secretary. I don't know how to write minutes. I did all the I can't. Yeah. But then they said to me, Lynne, we don't have a secretary at the moment. Nothing you do could be any worse than what we're trying to face at the moment. So I said, okay, I'll give it a go. I don't think, Graham, I realised quite what I'd taken on. I coped as secretary. I didn't particularly enjoy being secretary. It's not really my thing. Sue Duncan does a great job at the moment on it, but it wasn't really for me, although I did it. And at that point, they asked me if I would like to take over and be the chair. And that's how that really came about. Again, I thought, I can't do that. How can I be a chair? I've never been a chair of anything. I've never been a deputy chair. But they were absolutely desperate. And at that time, I'm going to be honest, the NJC was actually in the red. It had no money at all. It was in the red. It had very, very few groups on board. So it was in a dire way, actually. And no, not through any fault of the people that have been running it. It was just how it sort of went about. So, yeah, I thought, yeah, I'll give this a shot. Maybe if I'd realised that I'd still be here 10 years later, I don't think I thought about the future. I just thought, yes, I'll do it. And I've really enjoyed, I've enjoyed doing it, and I enjoy being chair, but it has a lot of challenges.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask. I mean, how do you be chair and balance that work, that life. I mean, I know how running a business is so, time consuming, and it's not a 9-to-5 job by any amounts. I mean, how do you manage to get that balance right?
Well, I think I've got it right, Graham. I don't know. I think I've got it right. I have to have days where I just do things myself.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I'm very aware that somebody might ring me, late at night needing help or something, and that I might need to step in and do something at odd times, at weekends and things. I've always sort of appreciated that. So it is a balance, that's for sure. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and I think listening to what you just said there, it is allocating time for yourself that is really the key to growing, a successful business, doing what you're doing, as chair. If you haven't got that private space, and you must have it. And I think the same goes, and the reason I'm saying this is because the same thing goes for driving instructors. We must learn as an industry, and I see guys out there doing 60, 70 hours a week. We must learn to have our private space so that we have a life.
Yes, exactly. And I think that there are a lot of people, not just in this industry, but there's a lot of people who think and come up with great ideas, but you need the people that are the actual doers. And I'm a doer. I think I try then to take those ideas and do things with them. And I'm on, my kids will say to me, Mom, could you just sit still for a moment? And I do sit still, and I'll watch a good film, and I'll just totally do nothing else at all. But I'm not the sort of person that would have wanted to sit here in this lockdown just in my house. So actually doing what I'm doing with the ADINJC at the moment is not an issue really. Although it takes the days over, because it's given me something to do. So I try and make it into a positive as well, Graham.
Okay, brilliant. I think I know the answer to this, and I think you've already touched on it, but I'm going to ask it again because I think it's a really important part of being a driving instructor. What's your favourite part of being a driving instructor?
Well, I'm going to say helping the people and the people that I meet. That's really, to me, my favourite part. And of course, it's a job that I love doing because I do love teaching. And driving instruction is not about driving, really, is it? It's about teaching, coaching, and you can, that's the skill in it, the driving part of it. Because I wasn't good at that at the beginning, but I learned about it, and I was open enough to think I need to know more about the driving side of it and why things happen. So you can make yourself learn those things, but the skill of teaching and coaching, I mean, you can learn how to do that, but it's practicing it, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, and also practice, and like you said earlier, it's practicing the right things. It's the ability to reflect on your performance, and really not afraid to ask someone in. And I don't like this word, but to judge you, because somebody else's opinion, you don't have to agree with it, but at least it opens your mind to, I never saw that. I'll mention this, but it just reminds me of the Johari window, but we won't go there.
No, let's not go there. That was always very complicated.
Yeah. Well,
but I do think, Graham, that people, they'll ring me up, for example, for instructor training, for some standards check training or something, and they'll say, well, what exactly will we do, Lynne? And I say, well, we'll do whatever you need to do, and the sections of it that you need to look at with me, and that's what we'll focus on, and then we'll set those goals, and that's what we'll achieve by the end of the session. But people like that very prescriptive, well, what will we do exactly when we get there, Lynne? And they want to know that. So people have those sorts of expectations. So sometimes they're probably a bit shocked when I say, well, it's not planned yet. But obviously, from all my experience that I have, the session obviously goes well, and people, at the end will say, well, that was great. I see what you mean now. So you have to, as an ADI, sometimes you have to trust people enough to sort of go and see and take the bits that you think really help you.
Yeah, and when you say you don't have a plan, we do have a plan, but we don't have any meat on that plan. There's a skeleton, isn't there? That right. If I'm going to do something with someone who's coming to me and they want help, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I do have a skeleton that I'm going to follow to see, because I suppose we're going to look at where they are, their reality. You know, what are they doing? And then, as you just said, set their goals with them.
I mean, many years ago, when I very first came into this, I did go off to get some training as a very young ADI, and I went to this person, and they started off by saying that, Lynn, I want to do exactly what you want to do today. So you tell me what you'd like to do. So I said exactly what I wanted to do, what I thought would help me, and we set off, Graham, and we did exactly what that person wanted to do. And I did learn from that coaching, teaching, whatever I want to call it. What I learned was this person is not listening to me. They're not doing what I actually wanted to do. And I came away really quite frustrated because I hadn't actually solved the reasons I'd gone there for in my head. So I'm always aware of that when I'm helping other people.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, that just reminds me that some of us, okay, I don't know whether this...
It says recording live on Facebook on my top of my...
Yeah, it is still. I just had a message pop up that it was ending the meeting because somebody else has come on, but it still says recording. Sorry. Okay, right. Going to get my train of thought because that come up on my whole screen. I tell you what I'm going to ask you. What would you say to anyone who wants to become a driving instructor?
Well, I think it's still a really worthwhile career path at the moment. I mean, I think when we come back out of this lockdown, it's going to be quite busy. I don't fear that we're going to have an industry where there's no work. It's going to be busy. I mean, look at the backlog of tests of people wanting to drive, the people that haven't even started to drive yet. So I would say at the moment it's still something that's worthwhile to do and can be really enjoyable. I mean, one of the reasons I thought I was doing it was so that I could be flexible and work much less hours so I could be with my children. If I'd really been able to see into the future, I'd have realised that I haven't ended up doing that. But it can be a flexible job. You just need to learn to say no sometimes to people, you know, pupils who say, you know, I can only do next Thursday at 2 o'clock, Lynne, and you think, really? Or, you know, can you do such and such? If you haven't got space, you cannot keep working and working and squashing your day out to 7 in the morning till 10 at night, because you just don't give good sessions then, do you?
What you just said there was something that stuck out a mile for me. The ability to say no is so crucial, because otherwise people will just steal your time. And you know, actually, that person who can only do 2 o'clock next Thursday actually can do loads of other times, really. You know, it's just in their head, they think they can only do 2 o'clock next Thursday.
Just know in the nicest way possible with an explanation, really, I think.
No, it's very, very simple. Tell me, what do you, within this industry, well, it could be inside or outside, actually, what do you see as your greatest success personally?
Within the industry?
You can take your kids out of the equation, so because it's everybody's greatest success, I believe. But for you,
I mean, I would say, before you said within the industry, I would have said my kids a mile off, and my family, and just the support, because actually I couldn't do what I do if they hadn't helped me and supported me. You know, this was a person that, when I was asked to be the secretary, could barely type an email at that time. This was a long time ago, remember? And my son actually helped me, and my daughter taught me things, and that, you know, so without all of them, so they are, I'm really proud of them. So that would be my first one. Within the industry, probably getting the master's degree that I did, because when I was a teacher, you only needed to have a certificate of education to do teaching. And the year that I left, they were just bringing in the fact that you could do a degree, but my parents really couldn't afford to help me with that, and I wasn't sure that I should take more time to do it. So I passed that by. I was asked if I'd do it, but I passed it by and said, no, I think I need to get a job and I need to start earning. But that was a regret I always had. So I had no idea I would do it within this industry, but when that opportunity came up, that was something that I thought, yeah, I'm going to give this a go. So I never regret taking that master's degree. And sorry?
No, I was going to say, because sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but yeah, the fact that you've got a degree, I'm gonna, you know, so this is a question again, but what's your feelings about continued professional development? I mean, obviously you've bought into it hugely. what would you say to our industry about it?
I would say that we never stop learning, and we need to keep building on our knowledge. You know, in this industry, you can't stand still with your knowledge because things change, and you need to get new ideas and you need to add new bits. So
yeah,
I've always would have liked continuous professional development to be something that was, when I say compulsory, I don't like that word particularly, but I would like to see everybody doing it, because the people I meet that struggle as ADIs will say to me, "No, Lynne, I've never done anything since the day I've qualified." So, you know, that's the issue there. And I just, you know, I think that you can learn at any time in your life as well. You know, some people seem to think it's only when you're young. It isn't. You can do it later in life, and actually later in life, I think if you've got the ability to do it, that's when you think, actually, I am going to give this a shot now.
Yeah, no, I've got to agree. I mean, you know, I didn't go to any university until I was in my 40s plus. I mean, I've been to 2. I mean, which is absolutely amazing for someone like myself. You know, I just didn't work. School was no good for me. They asked me to leave. But I suppose that what you said also about people who have come and done CPD with yourself who've never done it are those who struggle the most. It's interesting, because I find exactly the same. And then when they come, I end up being your biggest fan, you know, and they keep coming back, because I think it's the fact that you grow. Whether you grow financially, your business, or just internally, you grow from that. And, you know, I can see that with people that we work with, and you must see it yourself, that how those people have grown. So let me ask you a little bit about NAS, because I don't, what's your involvement with NAS? And
well, at the moment, a lot.
NAS, as it is.
Well, it's the National Association of Strategic Partnership. It's a bit of a mouthful, isn't it? So it's made up because we feel sometimes to be stronger, as it were, we need to have the national associations joining together. So the 3 biggest ones join together, the NJC, the DIA and the MSA. And we've joined together, so we go to meetings, which makes us then strong. It makes us the tier 1 stakeholder. So we do every week, at least once. I am meeting currently with the DVSA, and, you know, putting views forward, suggestions forward, or they're asking us things. Currently, I'm chair of it until July, because we take it in 6-month blocks, and then in July it will pass over to the next association.
Okay. I'll come back. Well, actually, I'll ask you this now, because I think it's because you mentioned the DVSA. How difficult a job do you think the DVSA has had during lockdown? What's your view?
I think it has been difficult for them, because my understanding is that when I'm watching Boris, for example, yesterday on the TV doing his announcements, they are watching at the same time. And then they have meetings immediately afterwards, and everything has to get processed and passed past the Department for Transport. So individually, the people that I meet at the DVSA, you know, the vast majority of them are fantastic and trying to do the best they can, actually, under difficult circumstances. But I do believe that they've missed the point here of the communication side of it, and that rather than always just come to us and say, tell everybody this, they needed to do that face to face with those ADIs, because what concerns me is that not every ADI is in an association, sadly. And I don't mind which one people join, but join one, because otherwise you are missing out on so much. So how are the DVSA ever going to get the messages out to those people that just weren't on board an association? Because that's where all the messaging has really been coming from. So I think they missed that. And if I'm going to be honest and say that if we'd not said, really think you need to be talking to ADIs, you know, straight to those ADIs, write them some letters, tell them you're still thinking about them, that you understand it's a difficult time for them. And then things happened, you know, but it's a long process. So I have some, you know, I do understand it's a difficult job for them, but I do think that the communication could have been a lot better.
Yeah, funny enough, I remember having the same conversation, I think, with Mark McGee probably 10 years ago, saying your communication is rubbish. to ADIs, and it just doesn't improve. And I remember he said, we don't have the money, we don't have the resources for communication. It's really challenging for them. So I don't know the internal.
Well, I don't think it. I think that wouldn't be an excuse now, to be honest, because you can send, emails out to people, can't you, in bulk batches?
Absolutely. No, I agree with you, Lynne. I think the people within the organisation I have a lot of time for, but as an organisation, I've been really disappointed with their communication. It's not been satisfactory.
No.
Right, I want to change things a little bit. What car do you drive?
Oh, well, it's a Peugeot 208. It's a black one. Colour's important.
It's a black one.
And if you're going to have a car, you're going to have a new car, change the colour, because then people at least know you've had a new car, don't they?
Yeah.
I think if I leave this at any point, I'd like to have something a little bit, well, I don't know if nice is quite the right word. Nobody's ever complained about it. It's been a good driving school car, actually. Pupils like it. It's a bit bigger than some, so I've always been able to get lots of things in, which I've needed to do at times. But, I'd like, if I leave this at some point in the future, I'd like something a bit more sort of snazzy and that I can drive.
Okay, that you can drive. So what would it be?
I don't know. I don't really know. I haven't had time to think about that one, Graham. I mean, I've always, some cars are just too expensive, aren't they? I've looked at minis, but then for a driving school car, I'm not convinced by those because people seem to give up on them. I think technically they're perhaps not great as a driving school car, but I've always loved a mini. I started to learn in a mini, so maybe, a little mini, but a really nice one. I'd love that if I could afford it.
Okay, well that's cool. It's interesting what you said about the colour. I noticed I could change the model. They wouldn't even notice that I changed the model. If I changed the colour, people knew I had a new car. If I changed the model and kept it black, they didn't even know I changed the car. Yeah. It's quite so. Cars are not that important, really, are they? When as an industry for showing off, as long as they're clean and tidy.
Yeah. If you have a new pupil and you say to them, "What car did you drive then before?" Or if they've come from somewhere else, they don't have a clue. No, they don't know.
No, it's interesting.
No, they don't know.
Okay. What inspires you?
What inspires me? I don't know. I think, what inspires me are other people in the industry, I guess, as far as the industry is concerned. People that I've watched that have gone on and done a lot within this industry. And just inspirational people that I see in life in general, people with special needs, there's always somebody, even if you're feeling low yourself, there's always somebody that is 10 times worse off than you are. And some of those people are the most inspiring people. Yeah. And I get a lot of inspiration from those sorts of people.
Yeah, no, I like that. I actually thought your answer was going to be, you got which was similar, about your inspiration comes from, just being able to help people. But I agree with you, just being able to see other people and you go, well, actually, I'm lucky. I'm grateful for what I've got because, wow, this person's knocking my socks off. And they seem to have a far more difficult time.
And I think as you get slightly older, your views on what inspires you or what you want to do actually change. You become more realistic about things.
Okay. Right. I'm going to ask you this question. I don't know how you're going to do this, but if you were going to do a sales pitch for the ADINJC, what would you say?
I would say that we are an association that can help you because we give out lots of information. We're there for you. We have a help desk anyway, but we've had a talk line during this COVID crisis, which has taken calls from ADIs who have been in really bad positions mentally, and been helping people like that. So we are ADIs ourselves. We understand how you feel. We understand what you have to do to work. We've got a vast group of a committee that has vast knowledge, and we're there to support you. And it doesn't cost that much. For a small amount each month, you can be protected, if you like, and have that protection and somewhere to come to and somewhere that we can help.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I use that. I feel it bound that statement what bounds around the coaching world sometimes. No man is an island. You know, we need other people. We need to interact and support one another. So absolutely. Okay.
I mean, I'll be honest, Graham, I thought when this started, as did some of the committee, that we would lose a lot of members because people would just stop subscribing because they needed to save the money.
Yeah.
Actually, we've had a few of those, but they are very few, and some have said we'll come straight back. Some have left the industry, which is sad, because they've said, well, I was going in a year or two anyway, I've made a decision, I'm going now, I can't face this. Sad. But we've had so many new members come on board, and we've had 4 or 5 now new groups of people come on board, local associations and groups. So, you know, actually we're still here, and we you know, we're coming out through the other side of this. So I think they'll be around for a long time. So if you want to join us, come and join.
Brilliant, brilliant. Yeah. I suppose that we'll keep it on this track for a moment. What do you see as the role of driving instructors in road safety for the future? Because moving on, you know, we're in this lockdown, but coming out of it, I want to be excited about the future and what we can do as an industry.
Well, I think the first thing when we come out of it, we've got to be aware that people have gone a bit rusty out there, that there's going to be issues out there straight away because of the fact we've all been locked down. You know, there's going to be people who've lost their skills, or people that have been dashing around and aren't really looking. You know, you get to a junction and you're aware that the person there's not really looking because they're not expecting other people around. So I think initially now we've got to be careful, and we've got to hone these skills again, and we've got to get the pupils back. I mean, this industry, profession I like to call it, is all about road safety, isn't it?
Yes.
And it's funny because sometimes I talk to ADIs and they don't see themselves as road safety professionals, but we are, because this is all about road safety, and it always will be. So, you know, I don't know if that answers your question enough.
I think it does, because, you know, we're at the coalface. We are the front line, you know, on road safety in everything. And in all levels, you know, it doesn't matter, advanced driving, you know, we are the front line. We're the people who are going to talk to the people. So that makes us really, really important. And I think we've been really underestimated in the past. And we need to raise our profile as being road safety professionals, because we could do so much more. I mean,
to this day, Greg, to this day, I still remember my driving instructor. I can still remember in my head phrases that they said to me, and that was years ago. So we are important people, and we shouldn't forget that.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, I'm going to whisk you away now. If you could be anywhere in the world right now, where would you like to be?
Well, because of COVID, I'd probably like to be with my kids. So I'd want to go to Bournemouth, which is where one of them is. I'd want to go to Cheshire, which is where the other one is. If I was having a holiday and a break with my husband, I'd probably like to go to Venice. I adore Venice. I adore Italy. And we've had 2 or 3 holidays there in the last few years, which have been absolutely fantastic. And Venice is just the most amazing place. And I was so sad when Italy started to be, you know, have so much of the coronavirus there, and then I saw pictures of Venice just empty, and I felt quite sad about that. But I would love to go back to Italy, the Amalfi Coast and Venice and around there. That really would be where I'd want to go at the moment.
Okay, all right. This is the big question. Okay, this is the one that, you know, people have struggled on. It doesn't take long. How do you think I rate as an interviewer?
Right, I wondered what the question was going to be then, Graham. I think this has been great. It's just felt like a chat. I think to be an interview, you've got to put people at ease. You've got to appear to make it a conversation. You know, if you'd been Piers Morgan, I might have been a bit more worried and concerned. I was on an interview last night on LBC radio, and yeah, that felt quite comfy in the same sort of way, although at the end there was a sort of a statement made and you get cut off. But no, I think you've done very well as an interviewer.
Oh, you're wonderful, Lynne. Thank you very much. So look, I'm going to allow you to win the lottery now after that answer. So what would you do now you've won it, the big prize?
I don't know that I'd change things that much. I'd help my family, I'd help my kids, I might go off and buy a new house, I'd buy my Mini, you know, I'd possibly do all those sorts of things. But I don't think life is about just having masses and masses of money. Having read stories of people who did win the lottery and then, you know, years later actually we were in really bad way, I'm not sure that I even particularly want it. Well, I don't enter it, Graham, so I'm not going to win it.
No, well, neither do I. Okay. What are your lifelong dreams? What's your ambition moving forward?
Oh, I think, again, if you'd asked me that at 20 and 30, they'd have been vastly different. Now, I really just want some sort of peace, some harmony, to feel well, and to stay well and healthy, and for my family to do the same, and people and friends that I know. You know, those really are my ambitions. Now, I don't have ambitions to go and, you know, go to the moon or anything like that. There might be a nice bucket list of things that I'd like to do, but I don't have huge ambitions like that anymore. I'm just actually quite happy and quite satisfied with who I am and what I do.
Excellent, I love it. But Lynne, I've got one more question, and this final question, you can take as long as you like to answer this. It's a difficult question, I think.
All right.
What message would you like to give to driving instructors right now?
Oh, right. I just believe that we need to work together more. And I've watched all the sort of sadness, the how are we going to cope. We've gone through the sort of the frustrations. I'm sensing now it's turning to anger, because we have some people who've gone back to work and some people that are doing what is correct and staying where they are because of the DVSA. And the DVSA saying that, you know, we could get stopped by the police. If we get a fine, then we could be taken off the register if they were continuous fines. The registrar has made that very clear, as I do in my webinars. There are people going back for various reasons. I understand why they're going back, but I think this is making ADIs turn on ADIs, and I just feel we need to be kind and understanding to each other at the moment. And I'm just hoping that in the next week we're going to start to hear more news that will start to just enable us to know what we're doing. It's the uncertainty of not knowing, but it's turning into anger and frustration now, which is sad. And possibly, and I mean, I do get this sometimes, anger at me for things that I say, but what I am trying to do on my webinars when I do them is, you know, I know all sorts of people listen. I know the DVSA are there listening. I do know they listen to them. They tell me they do. So I'm trying to give out messages to people to say, come on, this is the time now to really help us, to almost challenge the DVSA now, because everything I read, and I've been sent from police forces, etc. I'm not even sure why ADIs are getting stopped. You know, under what law are we being stopped? Okay, any car can be stopped out there, but then why are we being fined? And when I start to look into this, actually, I do believe that legally, apart from the fact that the DVSA say don't, legally we could be out there. So you know, these are guidelines. The 2 metre rule, the 1 metre rule, they're guidelines, they're not law. So I get very mixed myself, and I'm sorry if I gave any mixed messages out or do in these webinars. It's just me speaking how I see it, but I do think now that we have a real case to challenge the DVSA, which I did at the weekend with the rest of NAS, because we sent one of our famous letters off again, to say what exactly is happening now. We need some clarity, please. Why are you still saying that we can't go to work when we know this, this and this? And that's what I was trying to do. And if I have to stir things up at times, then I will, you know, stir things up at times. It's just trying to get things moving, really, Graham, to be fair.
Good. Yeah. Thank you very much, Lynne. I've enjoyed this interview. I'm going to finish it now. I've got to take us off live on Facebook and stop the recording. So I'm going to say goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me. Thanks, Graham, for having me.
Okay, I'm just stopping the live stream.